Boogeyman Ben. Horror Zone.
Hey everyone, it's Boogeyman Ben. Hope everyone's doing well and everyone's having a great weekend. I, of course, am here in the Horror Vault, and this is a segment that I started last summer and meant to continue on, but just for some reason I got preoccupied with talking about other videos and other, collectibles and things that were coming out last year. But this segment is going to be horror comedies, and I started it last year with the movie Nothing But Trouble, and for this segment, I'm going to be focusing on a 1989 film that over the years I have grown to love quite a bit. It's one of my favorite horror comedies of all time. When it first came out, I was a little too young to understand some of it, just some of the, just the style of it or, the subject matter. I didn't find it particularly funny when I was a kid. But as I got older and became an adult and moved into a suburban neighborhood, the subject of it, the subject matter, and just neighborhoods, and just when you have a strange neighbor and just people that are nosy and things like that, it just really resonated with me, and I find this movie to just be hysterical. Of course, the movie I am talking about is The Burbs, and I, of course, am wearing my Fright Rag shirt. Featuring so today, I'm going to be talking about The Burbs. I'm going to talk about, the cast, the crew, the plot, and why I love the film so much. And I hope everyone looks forward to this. Please stay tuned. The plot of The Burbs focuses on the character of Ray Peterson, played by Tom Hanks, and what the focus is that it's his week off from work, and he just wants to stay around the house and relax. But his buddies Rumsfeld and Weingartner won't let him do so because they are all suspicious of the foreboding house next door to Ray's, where the Klopeks live. With all these strange occurrences that have been happening, and just like them, moving around at night, the strange sounds that come from the house, and then one of the neighbors going missing, the three men, along with neighborhood kid Ricky Butler, team up to figure out what's going on with the Klopeks. Cast, you have Tom Hanks as Ray Peterson, Bruce Dern as Mark Rumsfeld, Carrie Fisher as Carol Peterson, Corey Feldman as Ricky Butler. You have Rick Dukeman as Art Weingartner, Wendy Scull as Bonnie Rumsfeld, Henry Gibson as Dr. Werner Klopek, Brother Theodore as Uncle Reuben, Courtney Gaines as Hans Klopek, Gail Gordon as Walter Sesnick, Dick Miller as Vic the Garbage Man, and Robert Ricardo as Joe the Garbage Man. Movie was written by Dana Olson and directed by Joe Dante. Now, I love this film so much, and I think, like I said at the top of the video, it's just because of the age that I am, the fact that I live in a suburban neighborhood, and just growing up. I mean, my grandparents were nosy people, too. I remember when I used to stay at my grandparents' house in Manteca for the summer, and anytime somebody would pull up outside their house, my grandmother would go to the window and look out to see who it was. And it was just kind of like, no matter who it was, even if they weren't expecting somebody, they just were nosy. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's harmless, but what's funny about this film is just the characters of Rumsfeld, Weingartner, and Peterson. Those three just crack me up because they're like little kids. Even though they're adults in the film, they let them be. They act like kids. They're all just convinced that all these things are happening next door to his house. And Ray's concerned too, but he's just trying to put it out of his mind, and he can't because of especially Weingartner. And then when Rumsfeld, who's ex-military, I mean, Bruce Dern is hilarious. I almost think Bruce Dern steals the movie. They are just so funny in this film, and they're so paranoid of everything that's going on. And there's all these telltale signs that something is strange about the Klopeks. But just the way that neighborhoods are and just how people are, and I just love every little element of this film. And there are some pretty horrific moments in this film, especially towards the end of the film where it gets pretty tense. And I think it's just got a fantastic cast. I mean, this was coming right after Tom Hanks had done Big. He had been nominated for that film. He had also done the film Punchline. So he was on a hot streak, and it was kind of odd for him to do this film. It just, I remember when it came out, and I was still, pretty young when this movie came out. I was 14 when this movie came out, but I remember watching, like, I used to read Date Book and San Francisco Chronicle, and I used to follow a lot of entertainment news that was in the paper. And just, like, critics hated this film when it came out, and they almost thought that, Tom Hanks was wasting his time being in this film, but I think over the years, again, this film has just grown in popularity. But I love him in it. I think he's great. Sadly, we lost Rick Dukerman just recently, but I love him as the nosy neighbor. He's just hilarious in this film, and I love him as Weingartner. He's just so funny and just a perfect, him and Tom Hanks have terrific chemistry because Tom Hanks is more the straight man. And then, of course, you have Bruce Dern, who's completely insane in this film. And there's just he just cracks me up. And I had really never seen Bruce Dern. So I knew my grandfather really liked him, and he knew who he was, but I didn't. So this was my first introduction to Bruce Dern. I'm a big fan of him. And like I said, I love Rumsfeld. I don't know what it is about Bruce Dern. It's just his timing and just the way he, it's like the scene where they go into the Klopex house, I still think is one of the funniest scenes, and he just has some of the best lines in the film. Also, Carrie Fisher is fantastic as Carol Peterson, and she's kind of the adult in the situation. She's the one that's kind of telling these guys, calm down, why don't we just go talk to the neighbors instead of you guys playing, these, trying to sort of, get their goat and get them to come and confess to something. Because the whole thing is perpetuated on one of their neighbors going missing. Walter, who's this he's a retiree. He's kind of rude to everybody. He always lets his dog crap on Rumsfeld's lawn in the morning. And so he's not really well liked. But then one day his dog is found, wandering around, and they try to go see if he's home, and he's not home, and there's suspicious areas in the house when they go into Walter's house, and it looks like there's been a struggle, and they're convinced that the Klopex have taken him and killed him. And so that's what sort of leads to the whole cat and mouse game with Ray and the guys and the Klopex. And when you eventually meet the Klopex, I mean, they are odd, and there's some really, really great comedic timing in some of the scenes. But, I don't want to give too much away for people who might not have seen this film. But I think this film is really growing in popularity. Like a lot of stuff that came out when I was a kid now, everything is popular. Like everything from the 80s and early 90s just seems to be the it thing right now. I mean, who ever thought, I would never think that you would get a shirt celebrating the Burbs. But yeah, I absolutely love the Burbs. It's a fantastic film. It's one of those films that just never gets old. I love watching it. I think it's so cool that where it was shot on the back lot. A lot of the houses that were in the film were from shows like Leave It to Beaver and The Munsters and things like that, because it was shot on the same backlot street that Desperate Housewives was eventually shot on. So it's just kind of cool and just a lot of fun. Harmless film. Corey Feldman's actually really great in it too. I was a big fan of Corey Feldman's growing up, and I love him as Ricky Butler. He's really funny. He's almost like the narrator, not really like a narrator, but he's kind of like the one that's just observing everything. And I just really liked, he was having a lot of problems when he shot this film, because I read his biography, and yeah, I'm surprised that his performance comes off as good as it did, because he was having a lot of drug issues when this movie was shooting. But fantastic. Also, just on a side note, Joe Dante was actually a guest on the Movie Crypt podcast a couple weeks back, and he talked about the Burbs a little bit. And one of the things that I can't remember if he said it was a deleted scene, or I think it was a scene that he wanted to put into the film, was that Ray Peterson had actually been fired from his job. And the whole week he was just trying not to tell his wife what had happened. That's why he was just, he was on vacation, but, that's why I think, and it would have actually made sense, because you can tell he's stressed out from like the first frame in the film, and that he's just trying to find some peace, and if he had been laid off, I think that would have really added to what he was going through. But it doesn't really need it, but I thought that was kind of cool to find that out. So absolutely love this film. The Burbs gets 5 skulls. So yeah, a lot of fun. Really love talking about this film, and I'm curious what other people think about it. If people like it as much as I did, or if when they saw it, if they were kids when it came out, if they saw it, did it make sense to them? because it didn't to me. I didn't get the humor of it until I got older. So I was curious if other people had the same experiences that are around my age or saw the film when they were young. So please share your thoughts in the comment section below. Always love to hear what people have to say. And thanks so much. And I hope you guys look forward to more horror comedy segments because I have some coming up very soon. Take it easy. Peace.